Howdy ho, everyone. Good Saturday morning. My name is Sharon Combs with UCDI Leadership. And Do Something Daily LLC. We don't have a conversation today. Typically, we have a conversation and we speak with people who've been in the workforce for a bit, or they have what they believe are opinions that have just been reinforced over time. The message there, your perspective will reinforce your opinion. So you always want to get new information. But today we're going to talk with some individuals who are influencers now and will continue to be influencers in community. And I just wanted to ask them some questions about these isms, the origins, the patterns, and the identifiers, what they've seen in their life, how they navigate it, like how do they handle it, the approaches they've had for it. And so that's what we're going to do today. So, well, without further ado, in just a moment, I'll let you know everyone that we have on. Without further ado, let's just jump into the conversation. So thanks so much for joining me this morning. It's a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's just a lot going on, period. Some are distractions, some are chaos. What are some of the things you all are seeing, and what do you believe some of these origins are for some of the isms we're seeing right now?
I guess I'll lead it off. I think a lot of it starts with boredom. People are in their heads more. We have all this time to ourselves where these isms are starting to manifest in ways that we didn't even know that they could, just by having this, extra time on our hands and things like that.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think I will go next. I will also say just, stress, from work-related things, situation, not having jobs, unemployment. Everybody's trying to find a situation where it's like, okay, what do we do next? We're kind of mad about everything. And so when this happened, everybody took all the energy and frustration. They're like, you know what, we're about to attack people and we're about to prove a point because we tired of this, we tired of that. And then also, when we don't have no money and you don't have nothing to fight for, it's kind of like, all right, I got to do something. I got to fight for something now. So that's what I would say.
Yes, yes. So I want to ask you guys this question. This wasn't on the thing. Do you believe that who's typing? Do you believe that
Somebody is.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Do you believe and can you see how other people may be using this energy or this frustration or using it for like a specific agenda? Some agendas, some things need to be looked at and addressed, but do you believe that other people are capitalizing on it, like trying to make it serve a private funded agenda? Do you guys understand my question?
Right.
Can you see the man behind the Muppet? I'll just put it like that. The man behind the puppets. Can you see what sometimes? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I don't think people are using it as like a profit. I feel like a lot of people are, using this as, okay, we've been going through a lot of things lately, from the incident that happened recently, early in the month, where the guy was being chased down by two Caucasian men, and he was just jogging, you know what I mean? And then we finally heard about that after a while, and it's kind of like, well, why do we hear about this late, it seems like, and then did we get any justice from it? And then now we're going to this whole COVID-19 situation, and people are kind of feeling like, all right, well, we all locked in the house, and you start seeing more content come in, more content of just violence. You see more content of just things on Instagram, social media, Twitter, Snapchat too. I mean, you see it everywhere. I think I've seen every type of issue that happens. And so I don't think it's a little bit of a profit. I think people just kind of figured that out, like, okay, well, we've all been at home. And so somebody had to throw it out there, like, okay, well, look at this then, see what's going on in the real world. Instead of they're so busy doing their jobs, this all comes out. And then now it's like, okay, well, you know what? The person, George Floyd, talking about I can't breathe, that just set the trend. That just kind of said, all right, enough's enough. And then I think that right there alone is the only reason why people are fighting, not because of, oh, let's donate here, let's do this. I mean, that's just the kindness of our heart, probably. But really, it's because we're going to make a difference instead of just sitting back again.
Okay, so let's keep on with that for just a moment. Let's talk about the differences. Yes, this isn't on the thing, but here we are. Let's talk about differences. What differences? Not that I can make, but what differences do you all see that you can make, that you can impact personally and collectively? what shifts can you create and facilitate? And what are some of the ways that you all have thought about even doing that? I know it was a lot of questions at once. Just feel free to, like I say, this dialogue.
Okay. Who want to go first?
I think I got you. I have you, Jamie, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, I'd like to take a crack at that. And I don't want to backtrack, but I also think that to answer that, I'll also answer your previous question. I think that on a large level, there aren't a lot. I don't think there are a lot of ways to make a huge profit off of this. Although I do think that there are a lot of large entities that are trying to decide which way to save face, what's the best way to save face, because with this particular situation, you're going to end up going one way or the other, so we'll just say, pro movement, anti movement ends up being the two kind of sides of the schism. And so I do think that there are companies, I think Starbucks made a policy recently, which was no Black Lives Matter attire, no statements, none of that from any of their employees is allowed at all. Well, what you get there is that if you look at Starbucks and you say, okay, well, what is their demographic? Who is coming into Starbucks? Who is their most important market? More than likely, and I don't have the stats, but more than likely, it's the people on the anti side of that schism, and not necessarily that I don't want to go so far as to make it seem like I'm saying, oh, okay, well, racists love Starbucks. No, I'm not saying that. I do want to say though that the people that may feel some sort of way about the BLM movement are more likely to be in their market than not. And so you have that, but then you have celebrities. There was a recent thing on Twitter in which a bunch of celebrities got together and made some message, and they spoke for like 3 minutes and did something of that sort, and they all said, I'm sorry, it's my fault, I didn't notice, I didn't do this, that, which is it's necessary and it's good. But I do think it's one of those ways that it's like, okay, let me put my message out. Boom, my brand should be good. Is that good, agent? I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And it's not that they necessarily don't mean what they're saying, but it's kind of the most immediate. Oh, okay, boom, I can do this to save face, And then you have other celebrities that'll go the next step. But I think at the bare minimum, they're like, okay, let me say this.
Say this.
So that's the first question. And then the second question that you asked was, what do I think that we can do? Well, I think right now a lot of people are doing, as much as they can. Going to the protests and doing things of that sort are great, and I think that they have caused a difference, because at the very least, even if the larger corporations or larger entities are just doing things that are going to save face, or they have to make a decision. Okay, you know what? Actually, we have a lot of minorities coming to our biggest market, so we're going to make sure that we support this segment. They may not have genuine intentions. They may. I have no idea. But I do think when a large corporation does such a thing, smaller populations or people that do support that even aren't in their main market, those that may have been on the fence end up siding
with the large corporation.
Because of what the large corporation has done. And so I think the small things, being active in the protest, but then also being active individually and just, taking that extra time out your day, even though a lot of times it's like, look, I don't really feel like I'm the one I'm not the most woke or the most, pro-social, but taking a little time out your day to explain said situation to somebody that really doesn't care about the situation most of the time. It's not going to be people that are anti-BLM, but most times are neutral that you sway.
Can I kind of repeat? I want to be sure that I'm doing this. I believe the feedback. I think the feedback is coming from I think it's something in your area. So what I believe is people may mention something or join the poster movement, but it's not that they're really like wholeheartedly committed. But it's okay because the large corporation and these people do it. It actually adds more impact to the movement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Let us run a commercial, and we're going to troubleshoot a little bit to see what that sound is. Can anyone else hear the sound? Or is it only me?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah,
I can hear it.
yeah.
I forgot what it is. I can hear it too.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. I don't know what's going on over there in your block. I don't know if you have if it's leaned up against something that's rattling. Maybe you have to hold it in your hand, or if you have like another window up that's using media like YouTube or another video stream, that'll create feedback too. Like if you have Facebook open in another thing, it'll create feedback in that. And so I'm going to make sure I'm
Me?
over here. Let's see, do we hear it still?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear it a little bit. I can still hear it, and now stop.
Okay. So yeah, let me take a little quick break because I want us to talk about this, increasing our influence. Because you guys, how I live toward the end of my years is going to be what you all do and how you vote. So
Right.
Today, I want to talk to you about influence. In fact, I want to talk to you about how to increase your influence. The way you help others will increase your influence. Listen, life is not about how much money you have. Life is not about how big your church is. Life is not how big your corporation or your functions are. Life is all about influencers. So you go to any political place, you go to any capital of the country, the most important people are not sitting in the highest office. The most important people are the influencers behind the scenes. I call them kingmakers, queenmakers. These are the people who leverage their influence to help somebody else. You want to be influential, I know. Whatever field you're in, you want to be influential. I can guarantee you a way to be the most influential by doing two things. Number one, loan your personal credibility to somebody else. And number two is to actually help somebody gain greater influence. Because when you become that influence, you become, listen to me now, an influencer's influencer. And that is the level that you want to be at. Help somebody today, you will become that, an influencer's influencer.
All right, excellent. So we're back. And yes, it's still there a little bit, but I believe it's in that arena right there. So I'm just going to unmute Mr. Harris when it's time for him to, when he even looks like he's smiling. I'm going to get him in here. And you just jump in. I have my finger right there. Okay, so influence. What are some of the, I want to stick with the script. So I don't want to go too far off script, just to be fair. Measures and practices you've seen that help ensure everybody stays safe. What are some things you've seen? I know you guys, because you're athletes, you know this, when you're athletes, you do have a certain level of influence and a certain level of favor because you're an athlete. So what are some of the things you've seen that help make sure everybody is kind of like educated and safe with some of these isms, so that someone who's maybe they're not as tall as the average person, what are some things you've seen that protects them from being unduly, not being bullied? I'm just going to speak layman's terms. What are some things you've seen to help folks?
Well, I guess I can start with this. For myself, as a Black woman, everything that I've learned about these isms have been taught by my mother. Mm-hmm. She's taught me, how to stay safe when I'm out late at night. I haven't, too much learned from, the outside world, but it's mostly like my mom teaching me how to do these things, because they don't want to speak about the isms. They don't want people to know that they exist. So with that being said, as a small, petite woman, my mom is telling me, always keep my eyes peeled. Oh, never get cornered, don't really trust anybody. Just always stay on your toes. And it keeps me out of like a lot of bad situations.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, with backtracking what she's saying, with these isms, my parents has definitely taught me a lot of things, even seeing me as a athlete, people kind of can notice the difference when I walk in the door. And so now my attention is more like, okay, just be aware because now I have eyes on me regardless.
Mm.
I'm gonna have eyes on me because now it's like, okay, he must do something. So it's kind of like, all right, my pops is always telling me, watch your exits, just watch the basic stuff. Watch what people, how they interact with you, when you're sitting down at a restaurant, watch the door. Excuse me. So instead of me having my back turned towards the door, it's more like I'm facing the door somewhere. Somehow I can see the door, the front. So if something happens, I can make a reaction. Now you have to like play this role, these situations in your head over and over again. When I'm driving, if something does happen and I do get pulled over, how do I handle myself? Keep my hands up. What I mean, keep my wallet somewhere close. That way, no situation they can't say anything. So you have all these, I wouldn't say fears, but just more like, situations, like I said, that you can stay alert from and kind of understand. And then when you're at home, I saw a lot of things, just kind of like the basic stuff, just kind of seeing how the neighborhood, I have a lot of people in this neighborhood. It's a mixed race in the neighborhood. And so, how do you interact with people in situations like these in these times? And so for us, we interact with everybody, no matter what, we know this pandemic is going on.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna be standoffish. We're not gonna be sitting here like, oh, we're the Black family and we're gonna be over here while you guys do that. No, a lot of people actually come to us and we go to them and they're like, we're still a family here. So you gotta just kind of pick and choose and know what's right and what's wrong. At the same time, like you can't be too afraid of the world because the world, yes, the world's going through a lot of pandemic, situations and changes, a lot of changes, yes. But at the same time, you got to remember there's still good people.
Okay, so this is a question I want to ask. This is a personal question. It's going to be basically, this is a simple question. I know the answer to this is yes. Has there ever been a time that you've seen someone blamed, blocked, or denied for promotion or an opportunity based on something other than objective reason or performance? And a lot of times, when you say isms, the first two isms are like racism and sexism. Okay, well, so we're checking some of those boxes that we may have encountered that. So, A, have you ever seen something that you believe is that? And B, like how do you navigate it? How did you navigate it? Because quit playing. I know at some time somewhere in the life there's been an uncomfortable moment where the ism is what's going on, but we don't actually talk about the ism, or we just like, did that just happen? Like, so what are some tools? Because people are experiencing this, and one of the things I love to do with Hold Your Form is if you're not aware that these things occur, you can internalize some stuff that has nothing to do with you, and then you respond from that place, and you can forfeit something you've worked for. You can make yourself have to work harder in the future to undo, even if it's understandable, it still can have more of an impact than you want. So that's why I like to say, hey, hold your form so you can make an informed decision. So back to the original question. Have you ever seen that happen, somebody be blocked? And if it's happened with you, what are some things that you've done just to navigate it? Like, how did you have to grow through those moments?
Absolutely. It's happened to me personally with a certain position where I was not offered the position. And it looks like we lost.
No. I'm here. I'm here the whole time. I'm here.
And I did not receive the position because. Can you? Oh.
I'll leave my face on. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm with you, sis.
Okay.
A lot going on today. Are we good now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was not, offered a position. At the time, I did not know why. I kind of just told myself, well, maybe in the interview I didn't, answer a question correctly, or my resume didn't fit the profile, and I just kind of moved on. I didn't realize that there was an ism in that situation. So I just said, okay, well, my next interview, I'm just going to try harder, figure out why, this didn't happen for me. And it was really that I found out that I received the position because of implicit bias. And I didn't receive, the amount of, consideration because I was a black woman. And I just found that out recently. And so when I found that information out, I felt a lot of like hurt and anger, because I was so blind to the systematic racism that I thought it was myself that, I was the problem, when in reality, there was nothing wrong with me. And, fortunately, I still got the position. Awesome. Because the person that did not offer me the position at the time left the company. So, after, I was able to, fall into that position. So I was lucky enough with that. But my advice to anybody that's receiving those, isms and, in an interview, ask why you didn't get the position. Don't just assume that you didn't get the position because you just didn't get the position. It's okay to ask people, well, what are the reasons and how can I do better? And when you ask them that question, that's going to spark the conversation to make them think, well, maybe there wasn't nothing wrong. Maybe this has something to do with me. And so that's my take on that. And, I have the credibility because it has happened to me. It's okay to ask people what's going on and why. So.
How about you, Mr. Harris? Has there been a time that you've seen where someone was denied something and it wasn't based on performance? Like it wasn't based on objectivity, it may have been based on some other thing. Has that ever occurred in your life? And if it has, like, how would you recommend somebody navigate? That's the best way to say it.
So yes, for me personally, yes, it has happened. I'll give you one that may come from left field. For me, actually, my most noticeable situation, there were probably other situations that I probably bypassed in my mind, but my most noticeable situation was actually from being an athlete. And that may sound odd, but in college, and I go to a PWI, and the reason I mention that is because I guess just in general, I guess physical appearance, I guess the way that I dress, the way I present myself, I stood out from my classmates easily enough, and not just from being a black man, but also like a black man of some stature. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the smallest dude. So basically, for me, my biggest situation was areas where there was an automatic assumption that I got into the school based on my athletic performance, and that I wouldn't be able to carry my own weight. So as far as how it was handled, it sucks because the thing about what people don't realize about systematic racism is that, or systematic racism is an example that is analogous to this, but I won't say it was the same thing. But systematic oppression, I should say, in general, it is not set up. It's not so much that it's set up just for one specific person to fail, to one specific people to fail. It's that it's set up for one specific type of people to not resist. And that's a big thing that I think people overlook. It's not just for failure, but it's for the lack of resistance. And so in my situation, I had it with teachers, and then I had it with students. With the teachers, I tried to, mine was more so a grading thing and so on and so forth. And we don't have to get into that, but still, it's just that I couldn't really do much because at the end of the day, the policies in place allowed him to make the decision that he made. There was no debating it. It was writing class. It was actually writing class. So there was I could prove that my answer was right, actually.
Okay.
It was interpretation. Exactly. It was up for the interpretation, and for students and whatnot. That one's a tough one because, it was really nothing I could do but honestly, play that game. There was no way to get around it but to say, all right, if you don't think I'm good enough, fine. When the opportunity comes, I'll just have to show you that I am. And I know that's not the answer a lot we're looking for, but that was the
There is
situation.
you know what? Listen, let me be clear. That's why I want you to come here. And I do want it to be organic. It's like, I'm not looking for anything. We went over the things that I feel like are the safeguards as far as profanity, and you don't want to do anything that can adversely affect your future. But sometimes, like you said, PWI, some people may not know what that means. I believe that it's predominantly white institution. Is that what that? Okay. And so that means that you already going to stand out some, and then other things may have made you stand out more. So when I'm not looking for any specific answer, I'm looking for what you did because you successfully graduated. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you didn't quit. And some people, if they're not aware, like, they could really just be upset and so mad over the injustice. I feel like you have to recognize your audience and recognize where you are when you're making decisions. Like, you could have got mad and quit, and you'd be somewhere right now. Without a degree, and not saying without a degree makes somebody worse, but you were starting towards something, and just to quit because it was just too much. And so, okay. So you say you played the game. You fell in line. Why did you fall in line? Was it to get the paper so you could make it onto the next phase?
Yeah, I think at present, and if there's anybody in to say, well, maybe we could have went this path, I'd love to hear it. But I guess in the situation I was in, I was just, it was an overwhelming force. The systematic oppression is an overwhelming force. It's not supposed to be something you feel like you can fight on a front. If I fight on this front, I'll do this good, so on and so forth. And once again, I'm not going to attribute this one all to race, so don't take it all and run. But it was one of those things where I had so many things coming at me at once. And I think a lot as student athletes, I think everybody can identify to some degree. It's just so many different things coming at once that it was like, you know what? I don't know if this one's going to be worth, the time and energy, because it was like, at the end of the day, I can fight that fight and try to convince these dudes and try to, do whatever it is. Or unfortunately, I have to take that L and keep moving and hopefully get to a place where I can concede. I mean, where I can not concede, but succeed. Where I can succeed. And, right. Keep moving forward. So like you said, I did graduate. So now I have a degree,
I want to ask this question. Cynthia put this question up here, and listen, I am solution oriented. So I'm going to make this answer short and sweet. Does anyone feel that you're not in control of your future based on your skin color? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes? Oh my gosh. See, I was going to be like, no, but good. Okay, so tell me about that. So, wow. Wow, great question, Cynthia. See, I would have never pulled that one out. That breaks my heart. Right. Yes. Wow. Help me. Help me with that.
They already don't like us because they believe we're millennials, okay? They think we talk too much. They think that, we don't want to listen to nobody. We're afraid of nothing. And so when you mix that with color, it's just, we got too much confidence for them. It's
too much, way too much
going on.
Now, is the them the system and the structures that are already in place?
I'm going to be politically correct and say the system and structures.
Okay, that's crazy. All right. Thank you all so much. And that's what I love. I just learned something that would have never occurred to me because when I look at all three of you, you're fearless. You killed the game. You know what I'm saying? You hit that adversity. It hurts. I know it hurts. You know what I'm saying? Nobody has to have those conversations, the disappointment, self-doubt. Everybody goes through those things, but for whatever reason, you show up and you master even the next level, and you keep doing it repeatedly. And so I would have never thought that that answer would be that. So thank you very much. You just taught me something there. Yeah, because I definitely feel like no, I'm on this side. Definitely, I'm not a millennial. I'm on this side of life. I feel like no, but I feel like they're in defiance too. I feel like a lot of things have been said about what I couldn't do. So I wanted to be sure, like, after I woke up one day, I'm just like, whatever. I may have to work a little harder for it, but I'm already having to work hard. I have to work harder and not get the rewards. I'm gonna work harder and get the rewards. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, this the skin I'm in for the duration, baby. So I can sit somewhere and be upset about it, or I'm gonna lean in and navigate some things and figure out things. I'm gonna learn the rules of engagement in every room I walk in. And so for me, I feel like that. Shannon says, me too. I feel like no. I guarantee Shannon is on the Shannon's on my side of this thing too. So
she can stay on that side. She can stay on that side.
I can understand why y'all are on that side, but
I can stay over there.
We get more no's than we get yeses, but when we get a yes, our yeses are major, and that's why I can see why you guys don't think, you know, yeah. So.
Excellent, excellent.
It's like winning the Super Bowl with them yeses.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So you better learn from the game of chess. All right, thumbs up or thumbs down on this one. Your feelings about the schools that would not allow students to walk with their class because they felt their hair wasn't appropriate. Thumb up or thumb down?
That's a thumb down.
That's a thumb down. That's a thumb down.
Thumb down.
Okay, and that is part of the systemic thing right there. That's like conform or else, and it's a control thing. Listen, that knee on the neck, that knee on the neck manifests in so many other ways outside of just that physical knee on the neck. You know, there are moments when it's like capitulate or else. Okay, thumbs up or thumbs down? Throwing away the resumes because the name may have more than 3 syllables. Now, that being said, that right there is an ism. I don't know. There's not one that I can call it. I would call it the name-ism now. But when somebody has a name that may be like Lon Shantavia or really Muhammad, you know, and your name is on the application, immediately there's some of that implicit bias that comes into play. You know, like if your resume is outstanding, be like, man, this guy's really sharp. Like he's a sharp, special sharp. Oh, okay. Here's another question. How do you gracefully respond when you are given what I call backwards compliments that sounds something like, man, you're not like the other ones, or gosh, you know what? You're so well spoken, like, or if you like country music, you like that song? Like, how do you gracefully respond? How do you gracefully respond to the fact that you may not play spades? You know what I'm saying? Like barbecue may not be your favorite food, and it may be, it's good. Okay, so how do you gracefully respond to that?
I think you just gotta, for me, what I do, I just kill them with kindness. You know, my mom's always taught me to just kind of, you don't backlash and come right back at them. You just gotta keep, you're cool, kill them with kindness, you know, and that stuff right there alone kind of tells them like, oh wow, like I can't crack them, I can't break through them, you know, because once they know that they can break through you a little bit or get a little crack or get some type of feedback out of it, that's when they kind of go, okay, I'll throw this in there next time and this. I'm watching how they react. But when you kill them with kindness and keep it mellow and everything at the even level, they can't say nothing. They can't be like, oh, well, if I throw this in there, he ain't gonna, you know, he's not gonna respond back to what I want to say. So they'll leave you alone. And so going to a school like the University of Oklahoma, there was a lot of things like that. I mean, there was times where I would go either to a store or, you know, if I'm doing an interview and things come up and you kind of would hear stuff, but you kind of play it in the back of your head. Like if I say something now or say something crazy, it's going to make me, you know, blend in like the rest of what they think I'm supposed to be. And which is not true. Everybody's different. You learn differently. And so I learned differently from my parents. My parents taught me, you know, how to talk to people, how to hold myself accountable. And so those are the things that, excuse me, that I carry myself. And I use ever since I was from a little kid to high school, to college, after college, you know, when I'm doing interviews with other people, when I'm shaking hands with owners from different NFL teams, this is the same person I am. I don't switch up. This is how I've been since I've been a little person. So That's how I use it. I use my mindset, kill with kindness.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, to chime in on that, killing them with kindness. That's what I've done for the longest. But then I've also started doing the beg your pardon. Oh,
Yeah,
again,
that's a good one.
say that one more time, and then they think about it. They're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the right thing to say. Because when you hit them with that, they're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. And that's helped a lot. Beg your pardon. Oh, okay. That's how I do it.
So you're the one that started.
Not,
You're the one that started that one. Beg your pardon. See, I've heard that quite a bit from other people, so now I know where it came from you. All right.
I don't
Black
think
owned.
I can coin the term.
There you go. Black owned. That's it. How it is.
Man, I'm glad that you actually can say beg your pardon, because that's a sign of progress to me. Because the social contract, I am from Oklahoma, and the social contract when I was growing up was like you really pretty much let it go. Either you let it go, or it was gonna be an altercation. Maybe not always physical, but an altercation, because you're taught. Like my parents didn't teach me that, but just culture, school, education, public school taught me that. Like okay, excuse me, like it's horrible. I feel bad even doing it now with my body, but like taught me like that,
Yeah.
Like the same way I'm taught to be respectful to my elders and give them passes. The culture like taught me to do that with any race that wasn't mine. And I was like so, and I would have been afraid to say beg your pardon back in the day because I didn't want to be labeled the angry Black woman. And so I would do extra steps to prove that I wasn't. And then I don't know, something happened in my life. I was like, I'm tired. That's exhausting. This is me.
I'm tired of that.
Yeah. And also my faith helped that too. My faith helped me get tired of it. My faith helped me say, no, I'm free, being accepted. I subscribe to biblical principles. So being accepted in the beloved. But the religious construct, like as an organization, it helped me to have the kowtow more,
Yeah.
I really felt like then, like now you really can't say nothing because you're supposed to be a person of God. And I was like, I'm not mad at anybody. I'm saying that's not a nice thing. That's uncomfortable. Like, where do you do that from? What's the origin of that? We in the pattern. Where did it start from? So that's funny. He said, beg your pardon. Yeah, I would have been afraid to do that at your age. Chuck, how do you navigate it?
I think I could say I probably split the difference. Mine is more of a mind game, which is, okay, I'm going to keep the same smile. I'm going to keep the same happy tone. I just be like, yeah, what do you mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that may sound like,
I like that one.
Okay, but it's actually really funny where it's funny when people don't realize that that they've offended you, and you let them keep going. And so basically, I make them explain to a point where they're gonna have to realize, they're either gonna have to realize they're wrong or say something incorrect. At which point, I'm gonna have to get on you. But I think it's one of those things where it'll be like, if it's one of those, yeah, you're one of the good ones. Oh, okay, yeah. What you mean, man? Like, yeah, that's crazy. Like, what you mean, athletes? What we talking about here? You know what I'm saying? And it's usually more, tone towards whoever I'm speaking to. So if it's an older person, it'd be like, oh, okay, like when the young folks in the office, like what are we talking about here? You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth until you did this line of questioning that devolves. Huh?
I say you're wrong for that, but you're right. You're right. That's guided education. That's good.
Yeah. That's what I go for, basically.
Shannon says, I agree. Explain. All right. Hey, so let's ask these questions, and then I'm going to let you guys enjoy your Saturday. Lots going on right now with me. Lots of protests. Let me be clear. I do not believe protest and riot are synonymous. I believe you can protest. There are a lot of peaceful protests going on. I believe protests and bring awareness to issues. Lawlessness is lawlessness. However, I do want to say this one part. It's Machiavellian, the book Machiavelli. Not that I just follow Tupac, but Tupac wasn't the first one to mention Machiavelli. But there's a principle in the Machiavellian principle that says you don't necessarily follow the rules, but other people need to follow the rules. So even if I do something that's not following the rules. Like if I cheat to win and then you cheat to win, then I come at you for being a cheater. You know, I want to hold you accountable to the rules, but I don't want to give up my belt that I won from cheating. And so I feel like that within some of the protests, I'm going somewhere with this. Like if the laws are not protecting certain people, then you trying to use that same law for the people who don't feel protected, that's Machiavellian. You know, like if you tell everybody, it's like when you tell everybody form a straight line, and people form the straight line, and then a group of people don't form the straight line, and they're like, and you're like, hey, they didn't follow the law, the rule, the spoken whatever. They didn't follow what we agreed on. And so then you do it, and those same people are like, hey man, you have to stay in the line. But you really don't have to stay in the line, because the line obviously is not the only way to get this done. Anyway, I digress. My point is, I don't think a protest and a riot are synonymous. But I do think when you start talking to people who are heightened and in crisis mode, then you can't use something that hasn't been, you can't use something that they view as a threat to get them to conform or to get them to hear you. This lady says, please expound. Okay, that's funny. Okay, so here, let me ask you guys these questions. I digress. So everything's going on with the knee, right? People are protesting. This is my thing for this generation. As I said, whatever y'all do is more than likely going to affect some of my livelihood and my quality of life moving forward. People on this side. So please do well with it. After the knee, what's next? If you could say anything, what would you say to the older generation?
Times are changing, you know. I want to say this, you know, my mom, she's part of you know, the older generation, and me and her, we have these conversations where I have to, you know, have open dialogue with her. Like, Mom, we can't necessarily think like that anymore because the world kind of doesn't, you know, roll that way. We have to open our hearts. We have to open our minds. And to the older generation, when you all decide, like, okay, maybe the younger generation might be right in terms of the way that we're thinking, I think we're going to have, you know, we're going to be able to bridge the gap between us. Because it is a gap between, you know, the old and the young right now. They think, again, we're superior. We think that we're superior to you guys, and you guys don't know how to work social media, and you guys don't know how to do this, and y'all don't know how to do that. But instead of arguing about things like that, let's come together and, you know, work together and teach the older generation that things can be done differently, and that it's okay to have a voice, and that it's okay to speak on things. We don't always have to, you know, get in a straight line and not say anything, just to keep peace, you know.
Just to keep peace, right? Right, because the older generation, they may not acknowledge it, you know, but that's a very real. That's a very real. The same way you walk into a place and you like check the exits or whatever. That's a very real day-to-day thing in their actions. Okay, anybody else have something they would say to the older generation? Because I'm going to say too, what would you say to your generation? Let me get that one to you, Jordan. What would you say?
So my generation, for me, I would say, you know, keep making a difference. You know, right now we're at a point where before you would have situations like this kind of come up, things like these, and then they'll get thrown on the rug, right? So then years will go by, and then years will go by, and then something else will come up, and then nobody will say nothing as much, and it'll get thrown on the rug again. Well, for our generation now, you see how a lot of people are using social media. We're not doing this, you know. Uh, we're standing up for what we believe in, and so that right there is saying, like, okay, enough's enough. Our generation's tired of, you know, taking the lashes from the previous generations, and we're gonna fight for y'all now. We're gonna stand our ground, and we're gonna hold it and fight. But we got to do it the right way. You know what I mean? Because still, we can jeopardize the next generation if we don't do it right. We can start something that's gonna be either good or bad, and it all comes from this generation right here. So I would tell our generation now that keep fighting, but keep fighting in a positive way, because if we do slip up one time and mess it up for the next generation, it's just going to keep repeating itself over and over and over again, where we don't want that to happen. We want to be the generation that said, no, enough's enough. So I would want to
Good.
tell that generation.
That's good. That's good. Chuck, if you could say anything to, after Denise, what's next? If you could say anything to like I want to say the governmental and the political arena, what would you say? After this comes down, if you had something and they're like, okay, here's your 3 to 4 minutes, what would you say?
I think I would really harp on recognition. Recognition in terms of, I think some of what the government and what politics have qualified, as okay, boom, we're all in the same position. What people, y'all have the same opportunity, quote unquote. That's what I think a lot of the policies on paper written down, if you had no historical background, might look like they say to some degree, and I think that's what that's what happened with a lot of government policies, is that they look like they're fair. Well, if you don't break the law, you won't go to jail, so on and so forth. That's what it looks like. I think I would say to them is you need to recognize the historical background and what has put these policies into place, and what groups not inherently, because that's I think that is the way that those systems were set up, because very educated people did set up those systems.
They did.
Whether they had,
word.
Huh?
Set up is a good word for that. Not create. They were set up. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So it's one of those things where, I think while there may be, what we refer to, I think our biggest word right now is bigotry, which I think that word is very appropriate. There's bigotry and whatnot, but do not mistake that bigotry for actual ignorance, for lack of intelligence. And so there was an intelligent setup to said system. And so I think to the higher ups and to the government, to the politics, they need to recognize that these things were set up so that when a group of people did recognize that the stats are slanted this way and so on and so forth, that the system could put itself in paper and say no, everything's fair right here. If you don't break the law, it's all good. If you don't do this, if you do that, this is all fine. So I think recognition on that level of saying no, it's more than what's actually written on the paper. This does target this group. This does affect this group. So on and so forth. I think that's the biggest thing that we need to harp on is not not trying to point out, man, this says, but no, this is not equal as you think it is. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what I would say.
Okay, almost like getting to the heart of the creation, the heart of how it was created. Again, I subscribe to biblical principles. For you guys who don't, I'm sorry, this is just sticking out to me, but there's this thing in there about the rich young ruler, and he checks all of his boxes. However, when he encounters Jesus, Jesus says something to him that goes past all those checked boxes and hits the heart of the matter. And the dude walks away with his head down like, yeah, You're kind of right, because even though it looked good on paper, the heart of the thing that was driving that is not what the paper looked like. All right, I think. Go ahead. Anyone else have anything else to say? Yes, no, maybe so.
No.
Actually, I just want to, jump off of Jordan. For our generation, I also want them to understand, it's so many battles out there that we can fight. And when we are fighting our battles, take the time to step away and enjoy time with your family. Don't tirelessly, throw all these efforts out, because we can't change the world in one day. It's not going to happen. And when we are fighting battles, remember to be respectful, because I think our generation has a tendency to get, kind of hyped and not use our words as we should. And it can come off, offensive sometimes. And that's why I think we have a lot of people not trying to listen to us, because we get so passionate and so hype about things that people don't understand where we're coming from. So again, don't, tirelessly just fight all these, things. Just really, take the time, reflect, on the battles that we're fighting, and I think we can move forward from there.
All right. This is knowledge and nonsense. Knowledge and nonsense is like a nuts and bolts conversation. And so I want to thank you guys for doing the nuts and bolts. I do want to share this part. I believe they statements are like they're divisive. So when we say they, and there's a word that we use often as far as they, you should always, even today when they were like, pardon me, hey, what do you mean? That's an interesting statement. Or kill them with kindness. Always be able to define who your they is. Because just because you say they doesn't mean your audience is hearing the they that A, you are identifying, and B, they may hear that they as immediately divisive. And so, especially if you're wanting to educate, sometimes ignorance is just simply that, ignorance. And I like to encourage people in my generation and above, there's some wounds and some hurts. I'm not saying younger people or what people say millennials or don't have it. We do. Everyone has something that is painful. If you don't have something painful, you don't grow, you know? So there's some type of growth moment in your life. However, when dealing with that, just know that even people who are a different race, I have to remind myself of this with Tulsa, Oklahoma. People who are a different race, they were raised with the same tenets, both on paper and social constructs and culture that I was. And so they may be a different race than me. And sadly, the truth of the matter is they may believe that without even recognizing that they are, you know, if they don't think that I'm less, maybe they just think that they're more. Like they really just may believe that because that's how they were taught. And so sometimes ignorance is just ignorance. And I think right now we have a lot of individuals with the knee in the neck. It really exposed a lot of people who truly believe, well, they had to do something. It had to have been something. Even if they don't verbalize it, something had to happen. If they just would have complied, if they wouldn't have resisted. Because in your mind, no one believes that someone's just going to do something random like that. Just think about it. Take away race. If somebody a little kid came into you right now and be like, hey, Billy just slapped me. Our first thing is, well, why did Billy slap you? And sometimes people are like, did you push Billy? Did you eat Billy's cookie? Immediately we're like, because our mind isn't really groomed to think that, you know, people just do stuff ad hoc. And so for me, I do want to let people know sometimes ignorance is just ignorance. Jordan said, kill them with kindness. I do believe in love. I don't believe in passivity. I'm not saying be a doormat. Do not be passive. I like, hey, what do you mean by that? You know, I even like to pardon me. I'm already killing them with kindness and with love. But just know that sometimes ignorance is ignorance. And when someone begins to show a desire to know more, if you have a relationship with that person, then teach them. Don't blame them. Don't try to make them pay for 60 years of 400 years of this grave sin. But take that moment and insert true education, insert truth. And what will happen is that person now is a truth carrier too. Use your candle, light another candle. If everybody fights fire with fire, it ain't nothing but a bunch of ashes. If everybody uses their pain and inflict pain on somebody else, we just all run and hurt. So we have to humble ourselves, not be weak, not be a doormat. But in those moments, if they're asking for help, you know, try your best to help them. Jen said, oh, okay, wait, last question and then we're gone. Why is passion considered disrespectful? Well, I think it depends on who it's coming from. And man, there's so many environment, tone, yes.
The FUs, you know, the cussing, you know, we don't have to display our passion like that.
Yeah, we don't have to.
Unless, you know, some people, that's all they know how. But when that's all they know, we need to teach them that there's different words and different ways.
Use your words, Timmy. Timmy, use your words. I don't know that passion is considered disrespectful. I would ask, can you, we have like 2 more minutes. Can you maybe give me an example of where passion would be considered disrespectful? Because sometimes, you know, passion is just emotion. All of you guys are athletes, so passion, right there, like we don't consider that disrespectful. I'm trying to think of where passion would be considered disrespectful. So if you could kind of put that in there, let me know an example. You guys have an example?
I can, like on the basketball court.
Yeah.
when we get excited and maybe yell, we get a tech. Because now
I'm the referee, and that's right. No, I'm just playing.
We're just showing passion. We don't mean nothing behind it. We're not trying to disrespect the ref, but sometimes it just comes off as disrespectful. Most of the time, we're not even talking to the ref.
Nothing. Staying quiet, you still get attacked. Come on, but what? Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Okay.
I think I can think of it. And go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think I understand what the question is, and I think that there's just times that people perceive your actions a certain way, your passion a certain way, and you really can't control whether or not they've now thought that it's directed towards you, and whatever it is, whatever that passion presents itself as, they may think it's aggressive towards them, but that's one of those things where I won't go so far as to say you're going to stop and explain, because if you're passionate about something, you're probably just going to keep going down your path of whatever that presents itself as. But I think it's just that I think people in general, like all people, I think tend to be defensive, and if they think that there is something coming towards them, a lot of people are not good enough to be like, well, just explain it. Like, no, I think a lot of them are gonna hurry up and defend themselves. Simple as that. Right. And that's why it's like, oh, well, you disrespected me, so that they don't feel like they're wrong. It's basically what you were just talking about. Like, well, what was your reason for saying that? Well, it's because he said this, but that wasn't even supposed to be the way it was supposed to be given off or taken, So I think it's one of those things.
All right. Hey, thank you guys so much for being here. If you will please let people know who you are. I know who you are, and I do see your names, but let them know who you are and how they can find you. I know I have a couple of business owners here. I have one fresh graduate, just fresh, just fresh, just ready. But if you can, please let individuals know where they can find you. If you're on Instagram, website, or email, where you can be reached.
Well, my name is Jordan. My name. Oh, go ahead. Take off, man. Take off.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. My name is Jordan Smallwood. You can find me on my social media, IG jsmalls_09. You can interact with me. I do personal training. I do fitness stuff. I do life lessons. Just different things that help people educate on the fitness area, and then also just on character building as well. So you can find me. You can ask questions. I'll try my best to answer to you guys, and that's where you can reach me at. That's my social media.
jsmalls59_59.
jsmalls_09.
All right. Excellent. Somebody else, let us know where we can find you. Okay.
For me.
Go ahead, Chuck.
I'm sorry, I got delayed. I have a delay. I have a delay right here, so I keep trying to guess when y'all are gonna talk, and sorry, but So for me, I'm as she was saying, as Sharon was just saying, I'm actually a new business owner. Our social media is Project Dego Curses. Hopefully we can put that in so you can spell it out, but it is like it sounds. Project DEGO Curses CURSUS. And it's a program created for post-collegiate athletes. So I won't get too much into it, but yeah, that's I encourage you to go check that out and give us a follow, subscribe on YouTube. If you follow on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, and we have a website coming soon.
Right, excellent.
Okay, my name is Lauren Godbold. I'm a recent graduate, criminal justice major with a minor in sociology. Awesome. You can find me on Facebook at Lauren Sydney Godbold, and Godbold is GOD, like the one above, and BOLD, bold letters. So, and with that being said, I'm looking for my purpose in life, and I'm definitely on that path. So if you want to just, reach out and connect with me and, get the conversation going, I'm more than likely, to respond to you on Messenger. That's the best way to contact me.
All right, thank you. Thank you all so much. We're right at an hour. I just want to say thanks so much for doing it. The videos this week came from Dream Releaser Coaching with Dr. Sam Chan out of Atlanta, Georgia. A dynamic leader, a character builder. Who just really talks about where's your ladder, who's holding up your ladder, where is it leaning. Very dynamic individual. So I want to thank him for allowing me to use those videos. Listen, the legacy is right here. Make sure you're leaving an inheritance and a legacy. They're two different things. One's a what and the other is a who. And be aware of your influence. So today I just wanted you guys to see some of these up and coming influencers and get some opinions outside of what you may see on the news or things that are set up to be sensational and inflammatory. These are actual people, and I'm very excited about the influence that y'all are going to have in your sphere of influence with the general public. Keep doing what you do. Take care of yourself, but always remember there are others around as well who are going to feel the effects of every ripple you make. So make good ripples. This is our moment. All right, y'all be safe. God bless. Thank you so much. Feel free to share the video.
Thank you.